Football Manager 26 is a disaster. So I wanted to play the game and I wanted to give it a chance. But it's just not stable enough to play at this point. And you know, the worst thing about all of this is that we've already been like a month and a week past the official release date of the game, not counting that almost 2-week beta period we had before it was officially released. Now, let me tell you something about this. Though I've been really frustrated with FM26 for some time now, I really did want to give the game the benefit of the doubt. Like, I wanted to set up, you know, a long-term save. I wanted to make a whole bunch of content talking about stuff associated with the game. I wanted to sort of be at least kind of a positive face for the game. I'm done with that now. This is just not a stable release of this game, and it's really driving me nuts. All right, I've tried multiple times to get a new save started. However, every single time I click on a player, I get this error message that forces me to close the program. That's on top of the insane menu system that barely works. You already know about that. And that's in addition to how impossible it is to assign staff on your own. And then there's the fact that the tactical system is simply broken in this game. So guys, it's not just like a mess, it's a mess on top of a mess. I'm having a really hard time envisioning just how this game could be any worse than it currently is. This is, at this point, the worst release in the history of Sports Interactive by far. This is worse than anything that's ever come before. And I have a hard time understanding how it could possibly be worse than it is right now. And I'm just not going to subject myself to it anymore because life is too short. Now, the original plan for this video was to talk about some of the crazy stuff going on in the FM26 world. The best place to start, oddly enough, is with the in-game editor, which I really hope you didn't buy. Seriously, after paying a ton of money for a game that is barely functional, it is insane that they would expect you to pay $9 just to get the stupid editor. Even after all the supposed bug fixes, I ran into a ton of reports telling me that it is still broken. And what this means, of course, is that you cannot fix the idiotic things that the game does to you, and there's more of that stuff this time around than ever before. So for example, if you run into this bug like this one I was just reading about from the newest beta release, where having your players rest will cause them to be placed on the transfer list and set to, you know, surplus to requirements, guess what? You can't fix it. You can't fix it because the in-game editor is literally broken. And this is one of the reasons why I'm just done, guys. I'm done with this game. But you know, that's not the only thing broken with this game. So if you haven't heard by now, the balance in the match engine is completely off. It's set up to reward outfield players with high pace and acceleration ratings. This is true for everybody but goalkeepers. In that case, you want high reflexes and high agility. And contrary to popular belief, technical and mental attributes do not actually help you. So I don't know exactly how long the algorithms have skewed towards pace and acceleration in the match engine. So you've got to understand, by the way, that when we talk about the match engine, what we're really talking about are a bunch of algorithmic calculations. In theory, these go back to the original Championship Manager. In reality, I doubt that they've stayed the same over time because the brothers who programmed that game are long gone. So who knows exactly what it looks like these days, but that's that big secret that Sports Interactive wants to hide from everybody, right? However, I can tell you this, the pace and acceleration thing has been getting worse over time. And when you realize that that attribute balance is fundamentally broken, it's fundamentally flawed, you can actually change the way you play the game to take advantage of that fact. Since its debut in FM 2019, the new and improved training mechanic has been fundamentally broken. As evidence-based Football Manager proved a few years ago, none of the training sessions do what they claim to do. Now, remember that your goal should be to max out pace and acceleration, even if it comes at the expense of other attributes. One way you can do this is by setting up a training schedule with nothing but rest, and it does work. Combine that with an individual focus on quickness for every player. And then set up your rest screen to look like this. So if you set up your training like that, you will see pace and acceleration grow like automatically for all of your players, and it will grow with like no bounds. It doesn't matter what position they play. And this works in all versions of Football Manager from FM 2019 to FM 26 and will likely be the same in the future until they get rid of this awful training system. Now, the old training system they had before wasn't exactly perfect, I'll admit that, but the new system is just 100% broken, and it's especially broken when you combine it with that flaw in the match engine. So people have reminded me that speed actually is important in real-life football, and of course they're right. But in real life, technical ability is also important. It shouldn't be the net negative that it is in the Football Manager algorithm. And the part that is craziest is that you still see people successfully running projects in which they win everything with a team that is incredibly underpowered. Well, so, what can we do with FM26? Well, at least there's always like the tactical world, right? I mean, you know about this. FM26 has the difference between in possession and out of possession tactics, and it's supposed to make the game open up a lot more, and there's a lot more, things that you can do and all of that. I mean, at least we can spend some time entertaining ourselves with that stuff, right? Not really. Strikerless tactics are extremely overpowered in FM26. Now, strikerless tactics have always been really effective in Football Manager due to the AI's incompetence, sure, but they are really over-the-top overpowered in FM26. The best rated tactic on FM Arena for the current match engine has a win rate of over 80%. Now, I'm not saying that somebody took this tactic and slapped it into a random database and won 80% of their matches, right? Because that wouldn't really be that impressive. I've had seasons in past games where I've done better than that. Now, I'm talking about winning 80% of the matches over the course of how many did they do for these tests? Like 30 seasons or something like that against evenly matched teams. In other words, teams that have the same sort of structure as your team, the same current ability, the same potential ability, and the same type of division of that ability among different attributes, right? So you have to understand that these FM Arena tests are set up so that all of the other variables that you can possibly control are held equal, right? This is 100% the tactic. If you were to build a team around this tactic, which is not what happened in this test, if you were to put this tactic into your save, you're going to start with it and build a team around it, chances are very good that you will end up winning every single match no matter what, even if your players are nowhere near the level they should be at. That's how broken this tactical system is. It's 100% broken this time around, and this is unprecedented in the history of Football Manager. Somebody on Reddit tried this just the other day, and it works incredibly well, as you can see here. So look closely. They're reporting a goal differential of plus 149 over the course of a single season. 36 wins, no draws, and 2 losses. And as others have reported, pretty much any tactic that throws 8 players forward is going to create a problem the computer AI cannot fix. Now, you could always decide not to use the meta tactics. In fact, I recommend doing that if you want the game to be fun again. Everybody on Reddit, Discord, and so on will tell you the same thing. But the problem is that eventually you're going to realize that there is no tactical metagame to Football Manager. So what I mean by this is that tactics in Football Manager are always about turning on the right switches and figuring out what buttons you're supposed to push in the tactical system to get the combination to work. There's no real back and forth anywhere. It doesn't really matter whether your players are able to do this thing or that thing. Their personalities and their styles and stuff doesn't really come into question. And there's no system in place where a certain defensive strategy will nullify certain offensive tactics. None of that actually exists. It's just a game about pushing the right buttons. And then you've got the morale system, which has been broken for a long, long time. The truth is that morale really doesn't matter in Football Manager, and that it's never really mattered. Most of the chores you do in the game are tied to morale, but extensive testing has shown conclusively that an increase or decrease in morale doesn't really have significant impact on results at all. So in other words, there's no reason to care about what your players feel at all. Now, I'm not sure when morale broke in Football Manager. The thing is that the morale system and its various iterations goes all the way back to the very first Championship Manager game. And, it's the same thing with personality stuff and all of that. There have been changes over time, but the fundamental idea is the same. However, in more recent versions of the game, the time that you spend trying to make your players happy ends up exceeding the time you spend actually, playing football. This is why a lot of people consider it to be babysitting manager, because it's basically what it is. It's really, really infuriating to then realize that the morale system doesn't really matter in the end. In fact, you feel like you've been scammed. Speaking of scams, check out the FM26 in-game graphics engine. And now look at this clip from FM17. Do you see a significant difference between these two? FM17's engine has a few idiosyncrasies, sure. But I really have a difficult time seeing how this is a significant improvement. So why couldn't we stick with this engine and this UI again? Can you tell me? Anyway, I could go on with these complaints, but I won't. I'll spare you the trouble. But I am telling you that if you play FM17, you're going to realize that the graphical system is not that far behind FM26. What happened is they changed to a different system in FM18, which made the graphics a lot worse. And then it was like, oh, incremental improvements, and look at how much better we're doing, and so on and so forth. Sports Interactive basically relies on all of us to have really bad memories, and unfortunately most of us do. Now, the thing is, I'm really, really tired of hearing about how bad FM26 is. I'm tired of reading about it. I know how you guys feel. It's exhausting. I really, though, wanted to start a meaningful long-term save with the game, but I just can't do it if the game is going to crash like it's been crashing. I'm just done with it. I've given it enough chances. It's done, and I'm gone. I recommend that you also set FM26 aside, especially if you're having similar issues, right? But even if you're not, like, as I was going through and trying to set basic stuff up in this game, it's so frustrating, and it's also hidden that, like, it's just not fun anymore, guys. It's not. Well, I'm planning on going back to FM17 for a long-term save instead. Now, FM MatchLab will eventually come out with updated files for FM24, and when it does, I will do a major save with that game. I have a project in mind. And then I'm going to go back and play some of the really old games, maybe something like FM 2006. Or perhaps one of the old Championship Manager games that most people have forgotten about. So there's a lot of cool stuff still to mess around with. It's been a long time, so that, those older games kind of feel new again. There's stuff to discover. There's a lot of cool stuff that happened in the community going back decades. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to investigate. Like, this is going to remain a Football Manager channel, right? We're going to keep coming out with these videos. My hope is that I can make at least every other video one that's focused on Football Manager. It depends on how quickly I can get through these saves, but I'll tell you what, if I start playing like Championship Manager 01, 02, I think we're going to have a whole lot of material to work with, so we'll see. Anyway, there you have it. This video is going to be my last FM26 based video. Now, I might do a video in the future talking a little bit more about things like FM's graphical system and how things have progressed over time, but if I use FM26 clips in the future, it's all going to be from the few matches I've played so far. I'm not going back into this game. I don't care what they do with it. I don't care how much they think they fixed it. I'm done with it. Now, I don't know if I'll actually buy FM27. If I think about it, I will need to see some very significant evidence of improvement before I put my money towards that. And I've got a feeling that there are going to be some other new games that will be competitors that will come out in the meantime. So stay tuned for that as well.